Okay, sharing some specifics of my fertility journey in case it is helpful to hear the details. I have two brothers and a sister, and so growing up was a lot of fun. We were all very close. We're still very close, and I always thought that family dynamic would be really great and what I wanted as well. And so, my husband was all for it and was ready to get at it. And so we did. But as time went on and we became unsuccessful in getting pregnant, that dream had to shift and change. And that's a huge piece of transition and adaptation, I guess, going through fertility, is letting go of whatever dream you had as you were growing up. And I will say, only recently did we stop officially trying to have another child a decade later. That's how long it took really for me to let go of the dream of having many children. But I am more than blessed to say that we do have two beautiful kiddos from this fertility journey. And I think about how lucky I am every single day and how close I became to not having that. So that being said, the journey to get those two kiddos was really extensive. That first year we were trying, as I mentioned in my first video, I didn't tell anybody because I was so embarrassed and full of shame. So I did a lot of things myself, including a ridiculous amount of Googling, trying to Google symptoms of, oh yeah, I'm pregnant because my nose is running, or like, my tongue hurts, so that obviously is a pregnancy sign. Like, just really ridiculous things that your mind can spiral into when you are so fucking desperate. Then there was the, Googling of, should we have sex a specific way, or like if it's a full moon, or like all kinds of things. Some are very practical and useful, I think, didn't get us anywhere, and some are obviously totally not, and didn't get us anywhere either. So that was that first year. Then we finally went into fertility treatments, and we learned that we have unexplained fertility, which at the time I thought, great, unexplained fertility, that means there's nothing specifically wrong with us. But actually that is a little challenging, because as we learned, then the treatment can be a little more trial and error, and you really just like don't know what you have wrong with you. Which is a bit of a mental layer you have to deal with. So we had no structural issues. Egg count was okay. Sperm quality was okay. So nothing really challenging in that front. So we agreed to start with IUI. I was only 31 at the time. We were told, try and do as many rounds of IUI as you can sort of hack. We could hack 4 as it turns out, which was quite a lot. So we did 4 rounds, and even though I had many eggs in there just growing away and mature, none of them took, and so that didn't work. And we just were like, okay, never mind, we can't do this anymore. Also, it costs money, right? So it's like, the money you're using for IUI could go to potentially more effective treatments like IVF. So we made the call and we decided to do our first egg retrieval. Okay, so then we do our first egg retrieval, and even though I had a solid amount of eggs retrieved and mature eggs, and even a solid amount fertilized, like I think I had maybe six eggs fertilized, and I think 4 of them make it to day 5 embryos, which is like, if you don't know, day 5 is a good day. It means like they've lasted the first few days of creation, and day 5 means they're potentially ready to be implanted. We decided to do genetic testing, and they were all not viable. So at 32, I got this terrible circumstance where I was so excited to be doing IVF finally, after all that time, but having nothing to implant back inside me because there was nothing that was genetically viable. That was the most rock bottom and crushing moment of my life, because again, you just don't expect it. I was so shocked that happened to me, that was the case, that we didn't even have an opportunity to try. And so we decided to take a break, and because I was so desolate and so depressed and so sad. At that moment in our lives, this is going to be hard. My husband brought home a dog for us to love, because I was so sad, and because we thought, who knows if we're ever going to have a baby. And that dog saved our lives. It made me so happy. And I'm struggling because that dog just now passed away. But she was with us this whole time, since that very beginning. God, I'm so thankful. And she came into our lives. And so she was probably the only good thing that came out of being infertile, having gone through this. So I miss my girl. After that, about 4 or 5 months later, we ended up higher on the government list, because I guess I was 32, I had no viable embryos, so there was like a better case for myself to move up that list. So 4 months after we got Granger, we started our second egg retrieval. And in that second egg retrieval, we did have 2 viable embryos. One of them is my beautiful son, who is now 8 years old. The second embryo we kept frozen for eventual use, which we did try an implant 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and was successful in getting pregnant with that second embryo. And it was really cool, because it was like, oh, it's like my son's twin after all these years, like in a weird way. Unfortunately, I miscarried that baby, and it didn't work out for us. But in between those 2 moments, I did managed to get pregnant naturally, which was the biggest, craziest moment of my life after all that time. So my son was, I think, 1 at that point, and I got pregnant naturally. I know it was St. Patty's Day, but unfortunately I did have a miscarriage with that baby. And then we ended up, because we had gotten pregnant naturally and because we had done IVF, there is a case for trying IUI again, and sort of like taking a medium step back and not going straight into IVF again. And so we did that. So instead of implanting that second embryo at that point, we ended up doing IUI right after we got naturally pregnant. And we did 2 rounds of IUI, and we were successful in getting pregnant with our second IUI round with my beautiful daughter, who is now turning 6 next week. So we were so lucky. A lot of emotion in those long years. At the end of the day, fertility changed the way that I approached life. It marked me, and now I approach the small things differently. I approach difficult things a bit differently. I approach motherhood differently because of the struggles that that fertility posed to me. And when I think about like how much time and energy I spent on trying to get pregnant in those like glorious early 30s of mine, being the most desolate of my moments, like I think, fuck, how much time did I spiral? And it was a lot. It was a lot of fucking time. And I just think, what else could I potentially have done? And it's really hard to see, and it's hard to like look back and think that way. But what I am not doing now is wasting additional time. I'm very intentional about how I spend my time. I'm very intentional about how I wade through difficult moments, so that I can make sure that I'm not just waking up 5 years later and being like, whoa, what was all that? And I'm taking it a step further, and I do one-on-one coaching for women to help them seek out more time for themselves, more peace for themselves, more of a life for themselves when they're feeling these moments of being stuck or spiraling or circling the same grind day in and day out, whether that's through fertility issues or something even like really small, like I cannot stop checking my emails. Or like I'm buried in laundry. Like those are stuckness moments too. And you are through and through not alone. I'm here for you. There are many other support levers. I am ready to be your teammate, be your coach, championing for you and being in your corner to lift you up and make sure that you're loving your life and you have some joy in hard times, in good times, and that you're fucking going for the life that you want to be living.